Welcome back, everyone, to Gals Need Pals, the pod. I am your co-host, Kinley Schmidt.
And I am your co-host, Lauren Trivison. And we are so excited to be here today.
Yes, we have a special guest today, Maria Barrientos. Thank you so much for joining us and being our first special guest on the Gals Need Pals, the pod. It is incredible to have other women that we can interview and be inspired by and get all the amazing wisdom and advice that you have to offer. So thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's very exciting.
It is. It is. Well, Maria, if you could introduce yourself, tell us, what you do for work, and then we'll kind of get into some personal questions and then more into the business side.
Okay. Well, Maria Barrientos, and I am a real estate developer. I moved to Seattle 35 years ago from Guadalajara, Mexico. I've always been in development of some sort. When I was in Mexico and before that in Texas, I was developing private golf courses and golf clubs. Then I moved to Seattle, and all the skills that I had doing that were fairly fungible into development. And I landed with a multifamily housing real estate developer and was able to bring a lot of systems and knowledge I had from a bigger company and learned the multifamily development side from them. But as I said, the skills are pretty much the same. It's really managing large projects, managing a lot of people to all move in the same direction with a goal. So that's what I've been doing for 35 years. I built about 80 projects in Seattle over the last 35 years, over $1 billion worth of real estate. And I ended up, so most of what I do is multifamily housing, so apartment buildings, a few condo buildings. But I had this little niche of doing specialized projects that I kind of got through relationships, and there's not a lot of people who specialize in things like that. So it was cultural arts facilities. So I built the it started McCaw Hall, the Paramount Theater, the Olympic Sculpture Park, Village Theater, lots of Union Station for Sound Transit, their headquarters, because they're all specialty one-off projects. And through that also was lucky enough to build the Seattle Storm's new Center for Basketball Performance. And through that became an investor with the Storm, and of course love that team and the ownership and all the people. They're so pro women and pro just supportive that it's been a lot of fun. I'm so glad that I fell into that.
We did an event with the Seattle Storm back in September, I believe.
Yeah, it was the day before my birthday.
Yeah, and it was such an incredible event. One, Climate Pledge Arena is incredible. And just the updates that has made over the years is insane. We were so lucky to be in the Moet and Chandon Imperial Lounge. And we had 110 women at that event.
Wow.
And we were just so excited to, have such an amazing group of women supporting women's sports, which is so cool. So that's awesome that you are involved in that world, because we love it. We love it as well.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
So Maria, you had mentioned before we started recording that you have a son. Are you married? How many children do you have?
I'm not currently married. I was married for 25 years and I have a 30-year-old son. Yeah, he lives in Chicago right now. He's also in the same industry, having a good time up there. And Chicago's a fabulous city, so I don't blame him for being happy up there.
Very cool. That's awesome. And you were saying that you developed golf courses. Did you do that in Mexico as well?
I did it. I was based out of Dallas, Texas. I'm from Texas, from a border town, Eagle Pass, which has been in the news a lot because of the immigration, and it's a border crossing. So I'm from there. I went to school at the University of Texas in Austin, and I worked in Dallas for 10 years. And through that company, I got sent down to open up a new division in Mexico because I was the only person on the executive floor who spoke Spanish. It was a fabulous experience, great adventure. But then it got kind of lonely living in a foreign country, being single. So then I have always been a little bit adventurous, and I moved up to Seattle because I had a friend that was living here. I thought, oh, I'll try Seattle next. Fell in love with Seattle. It's such an amazing city. Not only is it beautiful, but honestly, the liberal politics and the good ethics, it was so refreshing after being in Texas and then in Mexico.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure. I'm born and raised in Olympia, and I'm like, I never want to leave Washington State at this point. I like our little bubble out here. And
that's funny. Well, my parents spend half of their year actually in Mexico. Now they spend half of the year here in the Pacific Northwest, and then half of the year in a place called Punta Mita, outside of Puerto Vallarta.
Yep.
So
I lived in Puerto Vallarta for a year. That's a fabulous place. And I assume they're there now when it's nice and beautiful and sunny. Although we're sunny, it's just warmer there.
Yes, I know it has been actually so lovely. We've seen the sun so many days in a row as of late, which is so rare for our little piece of paradise up here. But yeah, I'm actually residing currently in my dad's office. And I stole his office for the day. Because he is in Mexico. Lauren, you can ask the next question if you'd like.
Yeah, I know you've touched on it a little bit, but how did you get your start in real estate in the first place, and the golf courses and what you do now?
Honestly, very circuitously. And honestly, I tell both friends, parents, but also kids, including my kid, there's no perfect job the day you get out of college, right? Part of it is use that first 10 years to explore not only what opportunities there are, but what are you good at and what do you like? Because I personally believe each of us can probably do 6 to 10 things and be excellent at them as career choices, but you don't know what you don't know if you're not exploring. So I had a circuitous path. I came from a small town, had no clue what some of the opportunities were. When I went to college, I decided I was going to I got a degree in advertising and marketing. Had I known what I know now, I would have gone into real estate or finance. But you know what? I will say that the marketing background gave me a really good sense of what you need to build a business and even to build a project, because especially in multifamily housing, I don't believe in build it and they will come. You have to really think about where are you putting this building and what is the right unit mix, the right sizes, who's going to live here, why do they want to live here, why do people self-select to live in different neighborhoods? And the more you understand about that, the more you can build the right product for that neighborhood. So, through my circuitous path, I found that I was very good at project management. I was very organized and I could move things along. I knew how to push things and stay focused on a goal. What I didn't know is that I had an aptitude for financial spreadsheets, which I'm not sure why I didn't connect that dot. I was really good at algebra and math in high school and in college. I aced all my classes, but I never connected that you could use that and do a pro forma and do financial projections. So on the job, I learned that I could do that and I was very good at it. So all of those things sort of gelled together after 10 to 15 years of different work experiences. And I think that happens with a lot of people as you explore yourself and opportunities. And you I ended up in real estate development. I love it. It's been good to me. I've never wanted to leave it. But before then, when I was exploring what I wanted to do, I wish I had known more about advertising beyond just being a graphic designer, because that is not me, but I would have been a great account executive, I think, but I never got a chance, right? But anything that has to do with organizing, managing, getting things done, I think there's so many different industries that I could have been very good at, and it's just which one do you end up being exposed to?
Oh, I love that. I like how you said awesome. 10 years too, because I feel like in your 20s, there's this pressure to figure everything out
Oh, I
now.
know, but
And
it doesn't exist, because you don't even know yourself and what you're good at if you haven't had a chance to be open and explore.
I mean, as I said, I was a third grade teacher. So, I mean, that's what I thought my path was. And I always will have a really special place in my heart for working with children. That's something that I feel like I'm very good at, is I have a very good connection with children. But now I just get to tutor on the side. And with teaching, I gained such an incredible skill set that transfers to so many different things. As you were saying, the organization and all of those things work really well for what we do, which is event planning.
Yeah.
And it turns out that a lot of teachers end up, if they switch careers, they end up going into some type of event planning, because it takes so many little details that we do every single
Right.
day. I always say I was an event planner every single day in the classroom. You planned an event every single day to keep them
You
entertained.
are. And you probably learned how to corral what could be a chaotic mess and put it into an organized fashion to make it work.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure what you're probably really good at too is not just the logistics of putting on an event, but also the next step of what is it that's interesting to people? What do they want to hear about? And that's both a combination of data analysis, intuitiveness, and talking to people, because you need to make sure people are engaged once they're there, once you did the logistics, right? And sounds like both of you have really honed that art down. And it's a combo, right? Science and art.
oh yeah. And I have a
Absolutely.
background in communications and marketing, and so I can definitely see
So,
how
yeah.
yep it all kind of correlates as well. But I'm just more of the doing it with adults, not so much children.
Yes. So we'll move on to our next question. What has been your biggest challenge as a woman in business?
I gotta say the biggest challenge really was making connections, networking with the power structure and access to capital for my business, which is developing. So you need equity and capital, and how to navigate getting to that place is tough. I think particularly when I started and there weren't women in the business. And of course, there's always some sexism and dismissal of your abilities because you're young or because you're a woman. But there was also a surprising amount of people that wanted to help me succeed. I had some good mentors and a lot of both men and women who helped along the way. So you can't forget that. And I would say it was more 75 to 80% people wanting you to succeed. And, the other part of there's obstacles and challenges, and you just got to persevere and have that resilience to not let that get in your way, and keep reminding yourself, this is not about me. This is about them. And I would say having that self-confidence in yourself that you can do it is such a big thing for everybody, period. And especially for women. I find when I try and mentor a lot of women, because it's very dear to my heart, is trying to help them with self-confidence and not let themselves get defeated or to be told they can't do something. And I'm really lucky. I was born self-confident. So I've not had that, but I see it in women, and I really always want to help them overcome that. But, just naturally, if you're not, how do you get into a power structure? I had a young woman who wanted to be a developer, who had worked for me and had started her own company, and she was being really successful at X level of like getting owner's representative work or construction manager. And she kept saying, how do I break in to be a developer? I said, well, part of the problem is you're networking with people at this level. So you're not networking with people that have equity or investors or lenders or people with money. You need to start attending events where they're there so that they can get to know you. And it was that, it sounds really simple. And it took her about a year and a half, and she's a successful developer now. She's really good. I love that she was able to conquer that not understanding what was holding her back in that. And it wasn't about her, it was about she wasn't networking with the right group.
That's really good advice, especially for us.
And I was like mentally taking
let's take that one. Yeah, because one of our missions for Gals Need Pals is that we do not profit off of our attendees. We want to make sure that we're accessible and inclusive to all women and be able to, bring in as many women as possible, no matter their economic status. And so we do not, now they purchase tickets to these events, but 100% of the profit made from ticket sales goes to the business that we're working with. So we're helping support local businesses by bringing them business. It's a restaurant or the Storm or something. And so that's helping the local community, but we don't profit off of it at all. So how we continue to fund Gals Need Pals and keep this going is through exactly what you're saying, is networking and finding that equity and sponsorships and people that want to invest in us.
Yeah, you do, so that you can get even more people interested in supporting what you do, particularly with the proceeds going to organizations that everyone's interested in. I think that's a big deal and an opportunity for you all to grow.
Yes, so we will mentally check that one.
Okay,
we'll remember that.
I gotta say, not everyone's an extrovert. I would say I'm an introvert. I don't love going to networking events. I find them exhausting, but I force myself to do it, and I force myself to go and introduce myself to as many people as possible and let them know who I am and ask them about them. And you've got to do that. You've got to work the room, and you can't get stuck with one or two people the whole evening because that's your comfort zone. That's not the way to network. And I did learn that.
Yeah, we definitely have done that. Because we're both a little introverted, and I mean, obviously we've started a business to help people make friends. We both kind of stuck at, hey, how do you connect with other humans? And so that'll be our challenge.
It's only the first 3 seconds it's hard, right? It's walking up to someone and introducing, then yourself, and then it's easier. But it's that 3-second leap that you got to get over.
Yeah, so true.
Kind of going off of that, but in the opposite way, what has been your biggest accomplishment?
That's a tough one, because I would say I have accomplished so many things beyond any goal I ever had. I didn't know I could, or things existed, but probably being considered one of the best developers in Seattle, doing really nice projects. I think I am considered to be someone who produces very attractive buildings, and I only build in urban centers, like the neighborhoods that have good density. But I think especially for a woman-owned firm, and I was a single owner of the firm for about 15 years, and then about 6 or 7 years ago, I joined in a partnership with another woman, and it's really just helped make the company even better, because you have two great brains working together. I wish I had had enough foresight to do that sooner. I probably could have done more. But I would say just becoming successful and well-known in the real estate, multifamily real estate. Everybody knows my name and what I've done. And so that's, just a huge achievement.
Yeah, that's awesome. Going off of that, what does success look like to you now in your career?
That is such a good question. I don't know that I have an answer, because for a long time, honestly, having financial security and proving that I had arrived was what success looked like, making money and having projects under my belt and being respected. And then as you achieve it, what success is changes. And I think about just people I know in the business, and not everyone's driven in the same way. And it needs to be, top dog or the owner of a company or financially successful. I would say success now, and it's easy to say this in retrospect, is doing something you love and being happy. And obviously, hopefully making enough money to pay your bills and to meet the lifestyle that you're comfortable with. Not everyone's driven to have a lot of money and buy lots of things. Some people, or just want to have a happy life. And to me, that's actually more successful in many ways. Learning how to be comfortable with yourself, don't second guess yourself, comfortable with who you are, making sure you're introspective enough to understand your values and what drives you, and then going with that and not doing what someone else thinks either you should or what someone else does. It's being true to yourself. And I really think it takes a lot of honest introspective thinking about what makes you happy and what drives you, and then stay firm and true to that. So now, I'm kind of towards the end of my career. I'm exploring what does success mean like to me now. I mean, some of it's spending more time volunteering. I've always been very interested in land use and civic organizations, and spending more time doing that, using my talent for good, makes me feel good, but other people feel good doing other things. I think I mentioned to you all I'm as of a year ago, co-chair of the Seattle Storm Foundation, and that makes me really happy to be, and it's all volunteer, doing things that is going to help advance the Storm and the mission and the values of inclusiveness and opportunities for women and girls. That it really drives my soul and makes me happy. But I will say I didn't have as much room for that 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's true. So kind of going off of that, and with the Storm, how did you initially get involved with them?
Interestingly enough, I was a Storm fan, but I became more of a super fan when my son graduated from college. He was an NCAA athlete, came back to Seattle, and he discovered the Storm and came to me and he goes, "Mom, we've got to go to some Storm games. They're like so talented." And as a mom, you learn interacting with a male is different than a girl. You cannot sit in the living room and look them in the eye and ask questions, because they will shut down so fast. And so I learned that doing activities, it was the best way to bond and communicate and to chat. So I thought, fantastic. This is a great way for he and I to spend some time together. So I got us really cool seats and season tickets. And through that, we both became super fans. And then when the Storm had decided they wanted to build a new facility, it was after their 4th national championship during COVID. One of the owners knew me because we lived in the same condo building, and she knew I was a developer and she knew I was a super fan. So she came over to me one day and said, "Would you be interested in helping us build a new practice facility?" And I said, "Are you kidding? Of course I would." That was like an amazing opportunity to help a woman-owned, woman-led team. So that was really how I started, how I got involved. But I wouldn't have if I didn't have this. The 3 things kind of came together. I was a Storm fan. I was a real estate developer. I project managed lots of projects, and then my son, getting me involved, and then having one of the owners be my neighbor. So she, if I hadn't been friends with her, I'm not sure she would have heard of me. And who knows, they might have, because there's not a lot of women that do this in Seattle. So they may have, reached out at some point, but this was really gave me the edge, I would say.
So who's your favorite player and why?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I have one, because they're all so good and they're all so different. I would say a few years ago, I've always had a special spot in my heart for Ezzy Magbagor. She's such a sweet person. She's so shy, but man, is she like a great athlete, works hard. And I've just, lucky enough, I've been able to meet all the players. I just think she's such a charmer. But I love all of them. They're all so different. They have their own personality. So you can really admire each one for who they are and what they do.
That's so cool. Eventually, one day, hopefully, we'll meet.
Yeah.
meet a player.
I will say I've never met any of them that aren't just really nice and delightful and great.
Good.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. And just incredible athletes. And
yes,
they're overcoming something so challenging, being a woman in sports. Even in the last, year or two, it has gained so much popularity. And, I didn't know anything about women's sports as a woman. And and now it just feels like we hear all these girls' names over and over again now. And there's so many ads, and, Skims is, an ad for
right.
them, or, an advertiser. And it's just so cool to see that we're kind of hopefully turning a page in the book.
I agree. And for not just, young girls particularly, to be able to be exposed to that and see that see faces that are like them and say, you can achieve, you can also be a champion, you can excel at whatever it is you want. You don't have to be an athlete, but that it's achievable, and having that, the ambition, realize that there are women who do that is just so, the ability to inspire girls is one of the things that I love that the Storm does.
That is so incredible. Seeing even my third graders last year just be more invested in sports and wanting to actually get into basketball, and then talking about it, and being where we live in Spokane, basketball is a huge thing here because of Gonzaga, and just our surrounding area has incredible basketball teams starting from D3 to D1 basketball.
I love the whole, I love the sport. I love that the women and what they've achieved, but there's so many other lessons to learn there about both perseverance, resiliency, drive. What's your ambition? Because in order to be a really good athlete, you can't just have innate talent. You got to work hard. You got to, work at it too. And understanding those concepts that are, can go across any industry, anything that you want to do. That, and I will say my dad was wonderful with us when we were young. He basically said, you can do anything you want. Anything. You just have to want it bad enough to work hard to get it. And it doesn't come drop in your lap. And that to me is something I've always, when I've hit a rough road, instead of thinking, or I think once you go, oh, I can't do that, and then I remember my dad's words and I go, of course you can. Break it down. What does it take to get there? What do you have to do? And breaking it down helps me from that big overwhelming, oh my God, I can't do this, to of course I can. And what are the steps I need to take?
Yeah, I feel really grateful. I have a father just like that. One of his mottos is plan your work and work your plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's inspires me every day to push myself. He was from Spokane, Washington. We always say that he lived in the Catholic ghetto and by Gonzaga, and that's where he grew up. A family. He's the last of 7 children, and he worked his whole life to become successful, and a lot of hard work had to be put into it. He didn't end up ever graduating from college or anything like that, and so it took a lot of just perseverance to get where he is today. And I never expected myself to become an entrepreneur, but it's so cool to have now that connection with him, and be able to call him. I talk to him every single day with questions and needing advice on what to do next and how do I improve. And I agree that having a father figure like that, and having someone to inspire you and to build you up and believe in you,
right,
having those big dreams.
Well, just having a parent you can talk to about work and get input advice, right? My son and I talk about work a lot, and his career and things that happen at work, and he asks for advice. And I wish I'd have had that, like with my mom or my parents, but thank God I am in a career and I can talk to him about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was just on the phone with my dad earlier, and he's like, never be too proud when it comes to work stuff and just putting yourself out there and meeting people. And I was like, you're right, Dad. You're right. I needed that little confidence boost.
We'll let you end it however you want. You can, maybe share some advice to the young girls that are listening, young entrepreneurs, women in business, whatever you want. You can end it however you'd like.
I would end it with kind of the thing that I'm always thinking about is, how do you inspire other women who may have doubts or hit obstacles to get where they need to be? And like, I personally am not a competitive person. At least I don't compete with other people, and certainly not with other women. But I have very strong goals and ambitions, and I have a plan on how I'm going to get there, and I'm very driven. And so I would say one of the most important things for women to think about is be really honest with yourself of who you are, and come to grips and peace with your own personality. And then I also always say, look at other women that you admire and what are their traits that make them successful, and then decide which of those actually work for you. Because it may work for someone else, but it's not you, and you're not ever going to really succeed if you're not comfortable. But there's, let's say, 40 traits, and 7 of them fit you and your personality perfectly. Well, then seize on them and work towards those, because there's so many different personalities and things you can do to be successful. And not all of them are comfortable for every single person, because we're all so different. But I think being really honest with yourself, and even what your goals and ambitions are, and what personality traits will help you be successful, I think is a very useful exercise. And there's a lot, and it's not just other women, it's also men. What personality traits or traits do you see in the work environment that make them successful, and can you use those? And always have several tools in your toolbox to use, right? There's not just one.
So true. All right. Well, thank you so much, Maria, for joining us and talking to us. And it was so great to get to know you and to hear your story, and the advice you gave is so valuable that we will be taking it with us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for listening to Gals Need Pals, the pod. I'm your co-host, Kinley Schmidt.
And I'm your co-host, Lauren Trivison.
And we are bringing the bar bathroom banter to the real world.